The glimmering spires of the Alcazar Nexus rotated slowly around the cosmic jewel of the Carina Nebula, 10 vast wings extending like the petals of an impossible flower. Each wing bore the architectural signatures of the founding species: crystalline mirrors from Kethmoris, scratched metals from Verilon, plasma conduits from Helix, all arranged in a circle that had for 2,000 years represented the pinnacle of interstellar governance. Ambassador Lena Vance stood at the observation deck of the Earth Democratic Federation's diplomatic vessel, her gray-blue eyes fixed on the approaching station. The Nexus had been designed to inspire awe, to remind visitors of their place in the galactic order. 10 species, 2 millennia of tradition, countless worlds under their jurisdiction, and humanity. The newcomer was still expected to bow in reverence. "Quite the show they put on," said Major Marcus Reyes beside her, his military uniform crisp against the backdrop of stars. "All that architecture and ceremony can't hide their bureaucratic inefficiency." Lena smiled thinly. 10 years ago, when Earth first requested a council seat, High Counselor Kethmorik laughed in my face. He said we were, what was the phrase, a 300-year-old child presuming to sit at the adults' table. And now? Now we'll see if they're still laughing. She turned from the viewport, squaring her shoulders. The Stellaris system might have tradition, but Earth has results. And today, we're going to make them choose which matters more. As their shuttle approached the docking bay, Lena felt the familiar mixture of determination and indignation that had fueled her for the past decade. The Earth Democratic Federation, still rebuilding after the Atlantis border war just 5 years prior, had earned its place among the stars. What they lacked in diplomatic tradition, they made up for in industrial might, scientific innovation, and military capability. Most importantly, they had proven themselves where it mattered, in action, not ceremony. The shuttle doors opened to reveal a reception committee led by a tall, crystalline figure whose translucent skin refracted light in mesmerizing patterns. High Counselor Kethmorik of Kethmoris, head of the Stellar Advisory Council, regarded the human delegation with cold eyes. "Ambassador Vance," he said, voice like glass chimes, "Earth's persistence is noteworthy." "High Counselor," Lena replied with a practiced smile, "our persistence is matched only by our accomplishments." "Accomplishments," Kethmorik echoed, a note of dismissal in his tone. "The Council measures value in centuries of stability, not decades of action." Marcus stiffened beside her, but Lena maintained her composure. "Then today's session should be enlightening for us all." The grand chamber of the Stellar Advisory Council curved in a perfect circle, with 10 elevated platforms for the founding species and numerous smaller stations for the hundreds of observer species. The architecture was designed to overwhelm, vaulted ceilings disappearing into holographic projections of distant nebulae. The walls themselves shimmer with the collective knowledge of 2,000 years of galactic governance. Earth's delegation was assigned to one of the smaller observer platforms, a physical reminder of their subordinate status. As Lena took her position, she noted the other non-council species watching with interest: the aquatic Nexari, the energy-based Helix Confederation, the militaristic Exar, all powerful in their own right, all kept at the periphery of real influence. Kethmorik took the central podium, his crystalline form capturing and amplifying light. "The Council acknowledges the formal petition of the Earth Democratic Federation for elevation to Council status," he announced, his tone making clear how seriously he took the request. "The floor recognizes Ambassador Lena Vance." Lena stepped forward, activating her platform's projection system. "Esteemed Council members, I stand before you not merely as Earth's representative, but as an advocate for a fundamental reformation of how this body operates." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. For 3 centuries, humanity has integrated into the interstellar community. In that time, we have observed a troubling pattern. This council's devotion to procedure over results, to tradition over effectiveness. Ambassador, interrupted a Verilon representative, metal scales glinting. Such criticisms are inappropriate from an observer species. Your world has barely mastered faster-than-light travel. What could you possibly know of maintaining peace across thousands of star systems? Lena met his gaze evenly. We know that when the Omicron rebellion threatened 3 solar systems last year, this council spent 8 months debating the proper response protocol. Earth forces, working with local authorities, neutralized the threat in 6 weeks. You overstepped your jurisdiction, Kethmoric stated flatly. We saved lives, Lena countered. And last year, when we restored stability to the Atlantis system, you were assigned border maintenance duties, Kethmoric interrupted, his voice suddenly sharp. Your species is expected to maintain order in your designated sectors, not to presume authority over galactic strategy. The chamber fell silent. The statement, so blatantly dismissive, hung in the air like a challenge. Marcus Reyes leaned forward at his console, eyes flashing with barely contained anger. We rebuilt the Atlantis system last year, and we're the only force capable of stopping the Omicron rebellion. Yet we're treated as janitors rather than equals. Lena placed a restraining hand on his arm, but the damage was done. Several council members exchanged glances, their expressions ranging from amusement to outright disdain. The human delegation's enthusiasm is noted, said Kethmoric smoothly. However, council membership requires more than occasional military successes. It requires millennia of proven stability, cultural refinement, and diplomatic subtlety. He gestured to the elaborate chamber around them. This is the product of 2,000 years of careful deliberation and balanced governance. And how many crises have festered while that governance deliberated? Lena asked quietly. Kethmoric's eyes narrowed. The petition is denied. This council recognizes Earth's contributions within its assigned parameters, but finds no compelling reason to alter the established order of governance. Just like that. Dismissed. No vote. No serious consideration. Just as it had been 10 years ago. Lena nodded once, her face betraying nothing. The Earth Democratic Federation acknowledges the Council's decision, she said formally. Then, with careful emphasis, we look forward to demonstrating our worth through continued action, rather than appeals to tradition. As they exited the chamber, Marcus was fuming. They didn't even pretend to consider it. 10 years of preparation, and they treat us like we're applying for a school club. They gave us exactly what we needed, Lena replied, her voice low but intense. Official rejection, recorded and witnessed. How is that helpful? Lena's eyes gleamed with determination. Because now, we can launch the Democratic Coalition Initiative without being accused of undermining the Council. They've made their position clear. They value ceremony over effectiveness. Now, we'll offer an alternative to every species that shares our frustration. The Hanoi Alliance? Marcus asked, referring to the diplomatic framework they'd been quietly developing. Lena nodded. Send the invitations, starting with Nexari, Helix, and XR. Our message is simple. We'll build a new mechanism based on crisis resolution speed, rather than ceremonial protocol. They'll claim we're fomenting rebellion. No, Lena smiled coldly. We're simply organizing an efficiency committee, and we'll measure our success by results, not the elegance of our meeting rooms. The Nexari embassy was housed in a water-filled section of the diplomatic quarter, the lighting adjusted to mimic the deep oceans of their homeworld. Ambassador Valara undulated gracefully through the water, her iridescent skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that translated her emotions as clearly as spoken language. Your proposition is intriguing, she communicated, the translation software converting her light patterns to speech. But dangerous. The Nexari have observed the Council for 800 years. We've petitioned for membership 3 times. And been rejected each time, Lena noted, her voice transmitted through the aquatic communication system. Despite your species' contributions to environmental science and neural technology, Valara's skin flashed with patterns indicating surprise. You've studied our contributions. Thoroughly. The Nexari water purification techniques saved 16 colonies during the drought decade. Your neural interfaces revolutionized cross-species communication. Yet the Council relegates you to observer status because your civilization is merely 8 centuries old. Valara circled closer to the transparent barrier separating them. What exactly are you proposing, Ambassador Vance? A coalition of action-oriented species. Not to replace the Council, but to demonstrate a more effective model of interstellar cooperation. Immediate response to crises. Resource sharing based on need, rather than political calculation. Technology exchange without centuries of deliberation. And Earth would lead this coalition? Valara's skin pulsed with skepticism. Earth would initiate it, Lena corrected. Leadership would rotate based on expertise relevant to current challenges. For instance, if we faced an environmental crisis, Nexari would naturally take point. Valara's bioluminescence shifted to a pattern indicating deep thought. The Council would view this as a direct challenge. The Council already views Earth as presumptuous, and they've held your species at arm's length for 8 centuries. What have you gained from their approval? What would we gain from yours? The question was direct, practical. Lena smiled. Immediate technological exchange. Earth's atmospheric reclamation systems for Nexari water purification knowledge. Military protection for your outlying colonies. And most importantly, a voice proportional to your contributions, not your age. Valara's skin rippled with new patterns. Interest, calculation, possibility. I will consult with my government, but personally, Ambassador, I find efficiency refreshing. The Helix Confederation operated from an energy-based habitat, their forms appearing to humans as swirling patterns of light and color. Agent Phaedra, their diplomatic representative, manifested as a humanoid shape composed of pulsating energy. Your timing is fortuitous. Phaedra communicated directly to Lena's neural interface. The Council has delayed our petition for resource allocation rights for the 50th consecutive cycle. 50 years of waiting, Lena acknowledged. While your mining colonies in the Orpheus sector struggle with outdated equipment, you are well informed. Phaedra's energy form brightened with surprise. It's our job to be informed about potential allies. Lena leaned forward. The Helix Confederation has the most efficient resource extraction techniques in known space. Yet the Council restricts your expansion based on environmental impact studies that never seem to conclude. While their favored species receive immediate approval, Phaedra finished. Yes, we are aware of the inequity. Earth's democratic coalition would operate differently. Contribution-based voice, result-oriented processes, and immediate support for your mining operations in exchange for energy conversion technology. Phaedra's form shifted through spectrum ranges that indicated consideration. What would this support entail? Earth's latest terraforming equipment, military escorts for your transport vessels, and a guaranteed seat at the decision-making table when resource allocation is discussed. Bold promises. Ambassador Vance. The energy being seemed to study her. What do you seek in return beyond technology? Public support. When we announce the coalition, we want the Helix Confederation standing with us. Not behind us, with us. The Council will not take this lightly. Lena's expression hardened slightly. The Council has taken your contributions too lightly for too long. We're offering an alternative based on proven results, not ceremonial patience. Phaedra's energy form pulsed in what the translation software identified as agreement. I will communicate your proposal to the Confederation, but I suspect you'll find us. receptive to efficiency. Commander Zir of the XR military didn't bother with diplomatic niceties. The reptilian commander's scarred face appeared on the view screen without preamble or greeting. Your coalition proposal. Explain why XR should risk council sanctions. His voice was a low rumble, his yellow eyes unblinking. Because the council has failed to protect your interests, Lena replied directly. The M51 system borders your territory. Extremist rebels from Zera have threatened it for 6 months. The council is still debating the appropriate response protocol. Zir's scaled face remained impassive, but his tail twitched, a sign of interest, according to Earth's xenopsychology briefings. Continue. Earth proposes a joint military operation. Your forces know the territory. Our ships have the advanced weaponry. Together, we secure M51 within 2 weeks. Afterward, we establish a permanent supply station at the junction point between Earth, XR, and Nexari space. And what does Earth gain? A demonstration of what cooperative action looks like compared to council deliberation. And an ally with unparalleled tactical expertise. Zir leaned forward, massive claws tapping against his console. The council has indeed hesitated. Zera rebels grow bolder each day. They've developed biological weapons that could threaten our border colonies. We have containment specialists prepared to deploy immediately, Lena offered. And we're willing to grant XR Special Observer status in the Coalition's founding conference. Observer, Zir growled. We are warriors, not watchers. Participants, then, Lena amended smoothly. With full voting rights on security matters from the beginning. The reptilian commander was silent for a long moment. Then he bared his teeth in what might have been a smile. 2 weeks, you say? For an operation the council claims requires a year of planning? 2 weeks from deployment, Lena confirmed. We value action over deliberation. As do the XR. Zir nodded once, decisively. Send your tactical details. We will review them and prepare our forces. As the communication ended, Marcus approached from his monitoring station. That's 3 potential allies, Nexari, Helix, and now XR. If they all commit, then we demonstrate what real interstellar cooperation looks like. Lena finished. But first, we need to deliver on our promises. The M51 operation needs to be flawless. It will be, Marcus assured her. I've been preparing contingencies since we left Earth. If the XR provide the local intelligence we need, we can deploy within days. Then, let's make history. Major. Lena's eyes gleamed with determination. While the council debates, we'll act, and when we succeed, we'll invite them to explain to the galaxy why their way is better. The crisis in the M51 system had festered for 6 months, while the council established committees, debated jurisdiction, and conducted preliminary assessments. In that time, extremist rebels from Zera had established weapons facilities on 3 of the system's outer planets and threatened both XR and Nexari colonies with biological weapons designed to target their specific physiologies. Earth's response, by contrast, took 14 days from start to finish. Major Marcus Reyes stood on the bridge of the EDF Relentless, Earth's most advanced military vessel, as they prepared to enter the M51 system. 6 Earth ships had been deployed, along with 4 XR battlecruisers and 2 Nexari environmental containment vessels. Final checks complete, reported his tactical officer. XR forces confirm rebel positions on planets 4, 7, and 9. Biological weapons facility located on the asteroid, designated M51J4. Marcus nodded, studying the tactical display. Their defense capabilities? Minimal on the planetary outposts. The asteroid facility has significant shielding and automated defense systems. That's our primary challenge. And our primary target, Marcus added. The planets are just distractions. Commander Zir's intelligence confirms the bioweapons are their true leverage. He opened a channel to the joint fleet. All vessels. This is Major Reyes. We proceed as planned. Earth forces will neutralize the asteroid facility's defenses. XR vessels will secure the planetary outposts. Nexari containment teams stand by for biological countermeasures. The response came in multiple languages, all translated through the ship's communication system. Confirmation, readiness, determination. Marcus couldn't help comparing this streamlined operation to the Council's approach. No months of ceremonial preparations. No endless debates about jurisdiction and protocol. Just clear objectives, pooled expertise, and decisive action. "Entering M51 system in 3 minutes," announced the navigation officer. Marcus straightened his uniform. "Let's show the galaxy what real cooperation looks like." The operation proceeded with precision that would later be studied in military academies across multiple species territories. Earth vessels deployed advanced electronic countermeasures that disabled the asteroid facility's automated defenses without destroying vital biological containment systems. XR forces, with their superior knowledge of local terrain, quickly overwhelmed the planetary outposts before the rebels could initiate self-destruct protocols. The most delicate phase came when Nexari specialists, escorted by Earth security teams, entered the biological weapons facility. The rebels had indeed created targeted pathogens designed to devastate XR and Nexari physiologies, but they hadn't accounted for the combined expertise of a joint task force. Marcus coordinated from the command center they'd established on M51's largest moon, working alongside XR scientists to isolate and neutralize the biological threat. "Remarkable," said the lead XR researcher, a female named Sistora, whose scales were marked with the patterns of a science cast. "Your containment protocols interface perfectly with our analytical systems." "That's the advantage of cooperation," Marcus replied. "Earth's containment technology combined with XR biochemical analysis. We accomplished together what neither could do alone." The Council would still be debating which committee should oversee the operation, Sistora noted dryly. Marcus smiled. "Well, people died. That's the difference in our approach." 14 days after the operation began, Marcus stood before a joint press conference attended by representatives from 20 non-council species. Behind him, holographic displays showed the M51 system returning to normal function, supply ships delivering medical aid to affected colonies, and the captured rebels being processed according to interstellar law. "The Joint Earth XR Nexari Task Force has successfully neutralized the threat to the M51 system," he announced. "All biological weapons have been contained and are being safely disposed of. Civilian populations are receiving medical attention, and trade routes have been reopened." A journalist from a Helix affiliate asked the question they'd been anticipating. "How do you respond to the Council's statement that this operation constituted unauthorized military action in a system under their jurisdiction?" Marcus glanced at Commander Zir and Ambassador Valara, who flanked him at the podium. "By agreement," he answered, "we respond with results." For 6 months, the Council debated while citizens lived in fear. In 2 weeks, our coalition acted and restored safety. He gestured to the displays. "The people of M51 don't care about jurisdiction. They care about security, health, and freedom from fear. Those are the metrics by which we measure success." The press conference was transmitted across thousands of worlds, including those under direct Council governance. And throughout the Stellaris system, species that had long been relegated to observer status began to question the established order. Back on Earth, Lena Vance watched the broadcast with satisfaction. "Phase 1 complete," she murmured to her strategic team. "Now for Phase 2, formal announcement of the Democratic Coalition." The timing couldn't have been better, with the M51 operation demonstrating a clear alternative to Council procedures. Lena issued invitations to 17 species for a founding conference to be held on Earth itself. The Council's reaction was swift and predictable. High Counselor Kethmoric issued a formal condemnation, describing Earth's actions as reckless interference and a transparent attempt to undermine established governance structures. Lena's public response was measured. The Earth Democratic Federation respects the Council's historical contributions to galactic stability. We simply believe that in times of crisis, action must take precedence over deliberation. The Democratic Coalition offers a complementary approach focused on immediate response rather than perfect protocol. Privately, she was more direct with her team. They're terrified. For 2,000 years, they've maintained power by convincing everyone that their slow, ceremonial approach is the only path to stability. We've just demonstrated an alternative that delivers faster results with fewer casualties. The founding conference was held in New Solaris, Earth's oceanic capital city. Floating towers reflected sunlight across waters that had, just decades earlier, been polluted beyond recovery. Earth's environmental restoration was itself a testament to humanity's determination and innovative capacity. Representatives from 14 species ultimately attended, not just Nexari, Helix, and XR, but smaller powers like the Veshtari Collective, the Taugan Assembly, and the Orpharian Republic. All had experienced the frustration of council bureaucracy. All were eager for an alternative. Lena opened the proceedings with characteristic directness. We gather not to replace the Stellar Advisory Council, but to complement it. Where they excel at long-term stability, we will focus on immediate crisis response. Where they prioritize perfect consensus, we will emphasize timely action. Each approach has value, but the galaxy deserves a choice. Over 3 days, the representatives hammered out the founding principles of what they called the Hanoi Alliance. 1. Response speed as a primary metric of success. 2. Contribution-based representation, rather than age-based hierarchy. Direct technology and resource exchange without intermediary committees. Rotating leadership based on relevant expertise. 5. Commitment to transparency in decision-making. When the final charter was signed, Lena sent a formal notice to the Council, along with an invitation for observation status. A diplomatic jab that wasn't lost on anyone familiar with the Council's traditional treatment of younger species. The Council's response was icy silence. But throughout the Stellaris system, the demonstration of an alternative governance model created ripples that would soon become waves. The Hanoi Alliance's first test came sooner than expected. Just 2 months after its formation, a spatial anomaly appeared in the Zeta Prime sector, disrupting trade routes and threatening several mining colonies. The Alliance deployed scientific vessels from Earth, Helix, and 3 other member species, establishing containment protocols within days, rather than the months the Council would have required. More significantly, they shared their findings openly with all affected systems, Council members included, rather than restricting information to committee members as the Council typically did. Public opinion throughout the galaxy began to shift. News networks from previously neutral systems ran comparison graphics showing Council response times versus Alliance ones. Cultural commentators debated the merits of tradition versus innovation in governance. And then came the defections. The Valkan Federation, a mid-tier power with representation on 3 Council subcommittees, formally requested membership in the Hanoi Alliance. Their announcement cited the clear advantages of action-oriented cooperation and the need for governance structures that evolve with changing galactic conditions. 2 weeks later, the Tyrillian Consortium followed suit. Then the Protean Collective. Each departure weakened the Council's claim to universal authority, and each success by the Alliance further demonstrated the viability of their alternative approach. 6 months after the M51 operation, Lena received an unexpected communication request. The sender identification simply read, Stellar Advisory Council, Priority Channel. When she accepted, the holographic form of Helion, the Verilon chairperson of the Council, appeared in her office. Unlike Kethmoric's crystalline rigidity, Helion's metallic features were arranged in an expression that might almost be described as conciliatory. Ambassador Vance, he began formally. The Council wishes to discuss recent developments in interstellar governance structures. Lena maintained a neutral expression. I'm always available for diplomatic dialogue, Chairperson Helion. The Council has observed the efficiency of certain alliance operations. Helion continued, each word clearly difficult. There may be value in exploring collaborative approaches to crisis response. The Alliance would welcome such collaboration, Lena replied smoothly. We've never viewed our organization as being in opposition to the Council, merely as offering complementary capabilities. Helion's metallic features shifted slightly. The Council is prepared to convene a special session to discuss potential reforms to our operational protocols. Your perspective would be informative. Translation. The Council was losing influence and knew it. They wanted to co-opt the Alliance's methods without surrendering their authority. I would be honored to address the Council, Lena said. When would this special session take place? In 3 standard months, Helion replied. The appropriate committees must prepare the necessary documentation and— 3 days, Lena interrupted gently. The Alliance can have representatives present in 3 days. Crisis response cannot wait for committee preparation. Helion's form stiffened. That is not how the Council operates. And that, Lena said with a smile, is precisely the point we wish to discuss. After a tense silence, Helion conceded. 7 days. The Council will convene in 7 days to hear your proposal. When the communication ended, Marcus, who had been monitoring from across the room, approached with a questioning look. They're scared. They're adapting, Lena corrected. They see the writing on the wall. Either they evolve, or they become irrelevant. Now we need to decide what kind of relationship we want with a reformed council. Assuming they're actually willing to reform, Marcus cautioned. Lena's expression was thoughtful. They'll resist meaningful change until they have no choice. Our job is to make sure they understand when that moment arrives. The special session of the Stellar Advisory Council was unlike any in its 2,000-year history. For the first time, representatives from all observer species were granted speaking privileges, a concession that itself demonstrated how far the Council's position had eroded. The Alcazar Nexus was filled to capacity, with diplomatic vessels from hundreds of worlds orbiting nearby to monitor the proceedings. The 10 founding species occupied their traditional elevated platforms. But there was a palpable tension in their postures. High Counselor Kethmoric opened the session with uncharacteristic brevity. The Council recognizes that galactic conditions evolve, and governance structures must occasionally be re-evaluated. We have convened to consider proposals for operational refinements. Refinements, Marcus murmured from his position beside Lena. That's one way to describe fighting for your political life. Lena stepped forward as the Earth representative. Esteemed Council, I thank you for this opportunity. The Earth Democratic Federation, along with our alliance partners, believes that the stability this Council has maintained for 2 millennia is valuable and worth preserving. She paused, letting the conciliatory opening set the tone before continuing. However, we also believe that response speed has become as important as deliberative wisdom in addressing modern crises. With a gesture, she activated the chamber's holographic display system. A time-lapse comparison appeared, showing the Council's 6-month deliberation process for the M51 crisis, alongside the Alliance's 2-week resolution. This is not about replacing tradition with haste, she continued. It's about complementing wisdom with action. The galaxy needs both. Kethmoric's crystalline form seemed to dim slightly. What precisely are you proposing, Ambassador Vance? A restructuring, Lena replied. Not dissolution, but evolution. The Council maintains its role in long-term governance, while incorporating a new rapid response directorate with representatives from both founding species and the Alliance. Crisis situations trigger expedited protocols that bypass traditional committee structures. Murmurs filled the chamber as representatives from various species consulted with their delegations. Lena continued, outlining specific reforms, from representation models to decision timelines, to technology sharing protocols. As she spoke, representatives from XR, Nexari, and Helix rose from their observer platforms, one by one declaring their support for the proposal. The XR have witnessed firsthand the effectiveness of rapid, coordinated response. Commander Zir announced, "We believe this model serves our people better than months of deliberation, while threats grow unchecked." The Nexari support this restructuring. Ambassador Valara's translated voice echoed through the chamber, her bioluminescent patterns projecting determination. "We seek governance based on results, not merely procedure. The Helix Confederation stands with Earth and our alliance partners." Agent Phaedra's energy form pulsed with conviction. "The time has come for evolution in how we address galactic challenges." Kethmoric's crystalline eyes narrowed as he surveyed the chamber. The political calculation was clear. If he rejected these proposals outright, more species would defect to the Alliance. If he accepted them, the Council's 2,000-year tradition of absolute authority would end. "The Council must confer," he announced, a slight tremor in his normally perfect tone. The founding species retreated to a private chamber, leaving the observer species to speculate on the outcome. Marcus moved closer to Lena at their platform. "They're cornered," he said quietly. "They know they can't maintain the status quo, but they'll try to water down the reforms." "Let them try," Lena replied. "The Alliance is already functioning. Every success we have makes their position weaker. Time is on our side now." After 2 hours, remarkably brief by Council standards, the founding members returned. Chairperson Helion took the central podium, rather than Kethmoric, a significant shift in itself. "The Council has deliberated on the proposals presented by Ambassador Vance and supported by numerous observer species," he began, his metallic features arranged in a neutral expression. "We recognize that galactic governance must evolve to address contemporary challenges more effectively." A ripple of anticipation moved through the chamber. "Therefore, the Council proposes the formation of a transitional governance committee to implement select reforms over a 5-year period, beginning with the establishment of expedited protocols for crisis response and gradual integration of observer species into decision-making processes." Lena kept her expression neutral, but inwardly she recognized the classic bureaucratic tactic: create a committee to study reforms rather than implementing them directly, and stretch the timeline to maintain control as long as possible. She rose to respond. "The Alliance appreciates the Council's willingness to consider change. However, we believe that the crises facing our galaxy require more immediate action." With deliberate calm, she activated her platform's communication system, transmitting to all diplomatic vessels in orbit around the Nexus. "Therefore, I am authorized to announce that the Hanoi Alliance is transitioning effective immediately to become the Pan-Galactic Council, open to all species regardless of age or traditional status, with full implementation of the rapid response protocols that have proven effective in the M51 and Zeta Prime situations." Kethmoric rose from his seat, crystalline form vibrating with tension. "This is a direct challenge to the legitimate authority of the Stellar Advisory Council." "No," Lena countered smoothly. "It's an alternative for those who value results over procedure. The original council may continue its traditional functions for those who prefer that governance model. We simply offer a choice." The chamber erupted in overlapping voices as representatives from dozens of species began signaling their intentions. Some expressed loyalty to the traditional council, but many more, especially those who had long been kept at observer status, indicated interest in the new pan-galactic structure. Chairperson Helion raised his metallic hands for silence. When the chamber finally quieted, he spoke with surprising directness. The Council stands at a crossroads. We can resist change and watch our influence diminish, or we can embrace evolution and remain relevant. He turned toward his fellow founding members. I propose that instead of a 5-year transition, we implement key reforms immediately. The Rapid Response Directorate should be established within 14 days. Representation should be expanded to include any species with demonstrated contributions to galactic stability. Decision protocols should be streamlined for crisis situations. Kethmoric's crystalline form seemed to dim further, but he made no objection. Other founding members signaled their agreement, some with obvious reluctance, others with visible relief. Furthermore, Helion continued, I propose that this body formally recognize the legitimacy of the Earth Democratic Federation's Council seat petition, not based on the age of their civilization, but on the effectiveness of their contributions to galactic welfare. The vote was not unanimous. 3 of the founding species registered objections, but it passed nonetheless. After 10 years of dismissal, after being laughed out of the chamber a decade earlier, Earth had secured a council seat. But more importantly, the nature of the council itself was transforming. The formal induction ceremony for Earth and 7 other newly recognized council species took place 1 month later. Gone were the elaborate, month-long rituals that had traditionally accompanied such rare events. Instead, the representatives signed focused commitments to crisis resolution cooperation and knowledge sharing rather than the usual bureaucratic documents. As Lena added her signature to the agreement, she caught Kethmoric watching her from across the chamber, his crystalline eyes unreadable. He had been relegated to an advisory position in the new structure, his 2,000-year-old authority dramatically reduced. A significant day, Chairperson Helion commented as he witnessed her signature. Not just for Earth, but for the evolution of galactic governance. Evolution was inevitable, Lena replied. The question was whether it would happen through cooperation or conflict. Many of my colleagues believed that our traditions were our strength, Helion said quietly. They're still adjusting to the idea that adaptation itself can be a form of strength. The best traditions evolve, Lena offered. They preserve their core values while adapting their methods to changing conditions. Helion's metallic features shifted in what might have been a smile. A diplomatic answer, Ambassador Vance. I'm beginning to understand why Earth has been so effective in building coalitions. The newly reformed council faced its first test almost immediately. A diplomatic crisis erupted with the Zeta Prime rebels, threatening to reignite conflict in a sector that had only recently been stabilized. Instead of forming committees and scheduling months of hearings, the new council activated its Rapid Response Directorate. Earth and the new member species took lead positions, not through hierarchical authority, but through relevant expertise. They established direct ceasefire negotiations, bypassing the traditional layers of intermediaries. The resolution came in weeks, rather than months or years. More importantly, it came through a model of action first, resolution later, that demonstrated the new council's commitment to effectiveness over ceremony. Throughout the following year, the council continued to evolve. 3/4 of its auxiliary committees were disbanded, replaced by streamlined decision structures with clearly defined timelines. The permanent headquarters at the Alcazar Nexus was supplemented by mobile command centers that could deploy directly to crisis zones. Most significantly, the membership hierarchy that had placed the founding species above all others was gradually dismantled. In its place emerged a contribution-based voice that gave greater influence to those who actively participated in resolving galactic challenges, regardless of their civilization's age. 1 year after Earth's admission to the Council, Lena Vance stood at a podium in the newly constructed Nexus Sigil, a headquarters that combined architectural elements from dozens of species, with reconfigurable meeting chambers that physically embodied the new approach to governance. We've learned that complacency is never as valuable as concrete results, she told the assembled representatives. Our mission is not merely to exist, but to serve all beings across the galaxy. Behind her, view screens showed the Council's mobile response units addressing environmental disasters, mediating border disputes, and coordinating scientific missions, all operating with an efficiency that would have been unimaginable under the old system. Kethmorik, now serving as a historical advisor rather than a high counselor, approached her after the ceremony. His crystalline form had regained some of its former luster, though his position would never be what it once was. "You've transformed the order I served for centuries," he said, his tone neither accusatory nor friendly. "The galaxy transformed it," Lena corrected gently. "We merely offered an alternative when it was needed. And now you lead what you once challenged." Lena shook her head. "No one leads the new council. That's the point. Leadership rotates based on relevant expertise. Earth guides crisis response because we've demonstrated effectiveness in that area. Nexari lead environmental initiatives. Helix oversees resource allocation. No species dominates all domains." Kethmorik was silent for a moment, his crystalline eyes studying her. 10 years ago, I laughed when Earth requested a council seat. I said your species was a child of 300 years presuming to sit at the adults' table. "I remember," Lena said evenly. "Now, many of those adults seek positions at your table." He made a sound that might have been a laugh. "The irony is not lost on me." "It was never about tables or seats," Lena replied. "It was about being heard when we had something valuable to contribute. And now all are heard," Kethmorik acknowledged. "Though sometimes I wonder if some voices deserve more weight than others." "They do," Lena agreed, surprising him. "The voices with proven results, with demonstrated commitment to galactic welfare, those voices should carry more influence than those that merely repeat traditional positions. But that influence must be earned through action, not granted through age or status." Kethmorik's crystalline form seemed to reflect her words back at her, fracturing and recombining them. "A philosophy for a new era," he finally said. "Perhaps not wrong, though different from what I've known." "Different," Lena nodded, "but hopefully better for all." As Kethmorik moved away, Marcus approached from where he had been coordinating security for the event. "Philosophical discussions with the old guard?" he asked with a raised eyebrow. "Reconciliation has value," Lena replied. "We need their knowledge, even as we change their systems." "Speaking of change," Marcus consulted his datapad. "The Helicar situation is developing. The Helix XR migration dispute needs diplomatic intervention before it escalates." Lena nodded, already shifting into action mode. "Prepare my shuttle. I'll review the briefing materials en route." As they walked toward the docking bay, Lena took a moment to observe the transformed council in operation around them. Where once there had been rigid hierarchy and ceremonial delay, now there was purposeful activity and cross-species collaboration. "A year ago, they laughed at us for requesting a seat at their table," she remarked. "Now they're studying our methods and implementing our protocols." "Success is the most persuasive argument," Marcus replied with a smile. "And results speak louder than tradition," Lena agreed as they boarded her diplomatic vessel. "Now, let's go deliver more results." The ship detached from the Nexus sigil, its course set for the Helicar Casino City, where the Helix XR migration negotiations awaited. Behind them, the new council continued its work, faster, more adaptive, and more inclusive than its predecessor had ever been. The galaxy was changing, and governance was finally keeping pace.